Hello, welcome back. It is week 152 here on Out on That Line podcast. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex. As always, Alex, how we doing this week?
Oh, Jeff, I'm a Jumbo Jack man myself, and I'm just loaded with secret sauce. I'm back from my Rocky Mountain adventure. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing quite well. I noticed it said Jumbo Jack in there, a little Jack in the Box reference.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So a quick digression about Jack in the Box. Tanner and I had it door dashed one night when we were out in Colorado, and it looked like it got run over by a damned old train. It showed up, everything was incorrect, and everything was like flat and exploded. But it was so delicious.
That's what I
I
was looking
assume
for.
that has
Yeah.
nothing to do with some of the things you can do in Colorado legally, but
No,
we
nothing.
jumbo jacked it down.
Yeah, that's so they also do a smash burger at Jack in the Box. That's quite good. There's one right around the corner from my workplace. So I've dabbled a little bit in Jack in the Box. Overall, good experience. Are you frozen? I think you're a little frozen. Well, Alex
Shit, you're glitching out too.
Alex is going to tell us a little bit. We got a little technical difficulties here, but we're going to get through it together, folks. Alex was telling me a little bit about a concert that he saw out there in Colorado at a little venue that people may have heard of. Alex?
It's called Red Rocks. Ever heard of it? Because it red rocks. It was great. It was baby's first Red Rocks experience. Um, Dr. Dog, hippy dippy indie stuff. So everybody was just like, I love you, man. You got to come visit me and my wife in St. Louis. We're about to have a baby. You got to come out before the baby's born so we can chill. I won't be able to do whatever I'm on right now. I won't be able to do ecstasy and cherry cola once that baby's born. So you got to come out. And it was just love and happiness, and everybody was having the time of their life, and Dr. Dog put on a spectacle. You can't even call it a show. It was a spectacle. It was absolutely wild how good of a stage show. For like how laid back some of their music is, their stage show was a fucking
Mhm.
rip snorting affair. Really fun. Fruit Bats open for them. 10 out of 10 would do again. Gotta go back to Red Rocks. Got the
Yeah,
itch.
that's a place that I definitely need to see a concert at some point. I mean, it just looks just splendid to see a concert at, the way it's set up, the way it's just that like super steep kind of amphitheater type seating where it's like there's probably not a bad view in the place. And
No.
yeah, I mean, it just seems like a very, very cool venue. And then also you're in the damn Rockies. So, I mean, it just seems like a very, very cool experience. I saw Dr. Dog like 15 years ago we were talking about, and I remember the show being enjoyable, but it was like they had a daytime slot at the Life is Good festival in Massachusetts. I think it was in like Canton, Massachusetts or something like that. I don't even know if it still happens. But they had like the heavy hitters were like Jason Mraz and Ben Harper. So this was clearly like very early in Dr. Dog's career. And I do remember, going back and actually kind of listening to some of their music after that, because that was the only really exciting part of that festival I remember seeing, other than OK Go as well. That was also fantastic. Another daytime slot at a festival. So we go from that to a festival that probably very few people out there have probably heard of or even attended, probably even smaller chance of that, to go from something like that to sold out show at Red Rocks. And the just from the anticipation I saw on like Pitchfork had an article about it. It was a big deal that these guys kind of got back together because it's been a while, right?
Um, 2 or 3 years, yeah.
I thought they took like a longer hiatus or had said that they were taking time off or something.
They said that they were done touring, and they are done touring, but they love playing live. Red
Mhm.
Rocks was a bucket list thing for them. But yeah, so I saw them. Tanner's first Dr. Dog, my first Dr. Dog too, but I got him into Dr. Dog. Um,
Brag.
we saw them in 2021 as Dr. Dog the last tour. It was the farewell tour, It was awesome, and I was like, "All right, that's the first and last time
Mhm.
I'm ever gonna get to see them in concert before they take a break and become like a studio band."
Mhm.
But they couldn't help it. They just started writing a ton of music and came out with an album. And to get ready for that, played Red Rocks, sold the place out. Um, and some people like overstate, like, I have a real connection with Slash. He flicked a pick in my eye, and I knew that was for me. That was just for me. He chose me. Um, but you definitely you get a sense from them that playing at Red Rocks meant a lot to them. All night they were just like, "This is amazing, and we can't believe we did this, and you guys are so amazing, and we love you, and we thank you for the support." And then they just put on like the show of a lifetime. You could tell they were ready. It's all been building to this. So if I never see them again, it was perfect. But I assume like once a year they're going to play a handful of shows. They did a warm-up show in Denver.
Mhm.
They did one in Philly earlier that week. So they just did like a brief window where they performed, and I think that's awesome.
I could see them doing like the larger festivals and getting some good time slots in those. Because that seems
I
like an easy way to make a living. Because you get to like the stage is already set up, like you don't have to bring a whole crew because that's already done. You just have to bring the people that handle your like music equipment. That's it. It seems like kind of a bread and butter kind of thing for someone that doesn't want to tour. You get to go hang out with a bunch of people that you're probably friends with, and that seems like probably a good slot in a good lane for them.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. Obviously, like they wouldn't headline Coachella or anything like
No,
that, but there's got to be something out there that I'm just not thinking of that they'd be perfect for.
maybe they
Um,
do an annual like Red Rock show.
that would be amazing. Take my money. I'll go back every time.
Or they pick
Um,
like the most legendary venue in each city. Like play somewhere cool, like play the LA, the Hollywood Bowl or whatever. Do stuff like that where it's just like those cool iconic kind of outdoor venues. See if they could sell out Madison Square Garden. That might be cool.
I doubt they can sell out Madison Square Garden. If I'm
If
being
they
realistic,
I feel like if they keep putting out music and people stay excited about them, when there's only so many chances to see them, like people are going to take those chances.
and that's the thing is the diehards. There are so many Northeasterners there. We met so many people.
Mhm.
Um, like Tanner's walking around in a Celtics shirt, and everybody's like, "Walton, R.I.P. Go Celtics, banner 18." And I'm like, I'm having one of those 30-minute pig orgasms where I'm like, it's good to be a champion. Oh, everyone's so happy for us. Usually people want to kill you if you're a Celtics fan. Um, but it was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal experience. Shout out to Dallas and Dallas. We're two dudes with actual names that we met on the tailgate for the show.
Mhm.
They were trading glizzies for beers.
Fair.
And I told them, I said, for every glizzy you eat, you can have 2 beers. So remember that math. And I assume they had a magical, wonderful time. So shout out to Dallas and Dallas. The kids are all right.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I think we ought to take a look at the schedule and find a time that all of us can go out there.
100%.
Yeah, I think that would be a fun time in a good way. Well, we do have an album to talk about today, and it's one that was kind of long awaited, not only to come out in the first place, but also probably for this podcast to do it, because this one came out last year, if I'm not mistaken. But we are finally getting around to talking about Chappell Roan and the album The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess. Now, there's one little interesting kind of tidbit that, this could just be a rumor, and it's as far as at this point it is. I'm sure if you did some research you could probably find out it's more true than it isn't. So this album has been kind of written and basically like ready to go for a while, a couple of years. And before she had a chance, Chappell Roan, before they had a chance to release that album, her manager left to go work on Guts by Olivia Rodrigo. And this album kind of got put on the shelf for a while because of that. And finally, the wheels turned enough where Chappell Roan could get this album out to the people, and immediately blew up. I mean, it was as overnight of success. I mean, I would say the only thing kind of comparable, funny enough, that I can think of, or something I'm sure if I thought more about it, this was just the most apt thing I could think of, is when Driver's License came out by Olivia Rodrigo, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden had a billion listens and a billion views within like a day or something like that. I mean, just absolutely went bonkers and insane. And I don't know if there's any songs that Chappell Roan has released that have like quite had that impact, but I think she as an artist has had that full amount of impact, just from going from kind of like relatively unknown. There was plenty of pop fans that were well aware of who she was. Um, but to go from that to the same conversation as right now, Olivia Rodrigo and Sabrina Carpenter, and maybe not at the Taylor Swift level, unfortunately, yet. Hopefully she gets there. But it's just kind of crazy when something like this happens, like this, of in a world of unending access to whatever information you want to have, whatever music you want to listen to, that something can be this like singularly popular in this amount of time.
Once again, TikTok, the kingmaker, the queenmaker, but I had the opposite experience. I would just like to let all you motherfuckers know that I have been on the Pink Pony Club tip since it came out as a single in 2022. I've known Chappell Roan since you were sucking on your mama's tit at Woodstock, okay? Not the most timely reference. I don't give a fuck. Fired up. I knew about this. I knew about Chappell Roan before any of you people, and I was on board. I heard Pink Pony Club, and I said, well, isn't that delightful?
Yeah.
I'm into this. I should see what else this individual has out. And I remember when this album came out like a year ago, I was listening to it in the shower, like you do. And I was just like, wow, I'm really taken with it. I think I remember texting you and
Mhm.
being like, we got to cover this.
I think
Spoiler
it
alert,
was
we
there
did.
was a week, I remember there was a week that there was like 3 different albums coming out that we could choose from, and I forget which one we picked, but I think we based it on like the popularity of the artist, because there was another one that I think was even a little bit less known than.
Sufjan.
Yeah, yes, and I think we didn't do that one. There was whatever the other album was is the one we picked, and I
Shit.
can't remember. I can't
Because
remember what it was.
Sufjan Javelin came out. This came out. And there was a third one.
Yeah,
I don't know. It could have been the shitty Kesha album. I don't know.
it
Anyway,
could have. You know what? I bet you if I go in our text messages right now and I search, let's see.
you never delete our text messages?
No.
I didn't either. Are you looking at the moon too?
Hold on. So if I
Okay.
put in, I wonder if it'll pick up like
I think if you put
Spotify links.
Chappell Roan, just type in Chappell Roan. Sorry, I'm not looking at the camera. This is a very
Only
private
back
moment.
through Monday, the last time we texted about it, because it was links. So I don't
Mm.
know if it's going to pick up what it said in the links, but what if I just type in Spotify?
What if you type in
Nope.
Sufjan? Let me see if I can get it on my end
Yeah.
here.
This is great. This is great pod.
This is such compelling pod. You guys don't even know.
And it's spelled like
So,
Surf Jan, right?
Sufjan. Sufjan.
Oh,
Let's
let's
see.
see.
Sufjan.
Yeah, I got nothing. I got nothing.
Yikes, I got nothing. It's just
Yeah.
Tanner talking to me about Sufjan.
Yeah, we'll have to just figure out what it was, but I think it was just based strictly on the popularity of the artist at the time and
Yeah.
kind of what we thought would get us the most shine on here. And now, having listened to this album, I wish to God we had done it then, because it absolutely would have been the right pick. What I really, and I know I've brought up Olivia Rodrigo like 3 times already, but another thing I wanted to bring up about this album, like spoiler alert, I thought it was fantastic. Um, that she kind of reminds me of a cross between like Olivia Rodrigo and like Charlie XCX
Hmm.
in a lot of these songs, especially like the song Hot to Go.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I can see that.
there's that kind of like pop punk sort of feel and element to it, but then you think, like, you listen to the lyrical content and everything, and you could be like, oh, this could be a Charlie XCX song. And I do mean that as a compliment, going in either direction. It To me, this was a surprise. This was one of those albums like Future Nostalgia, where you listen to it and you're like, this is something different. This is something that fits in today's like pop zeitgeist, but kind of stands on its own as its own like kind of unique flavor of that. What I really enjoyed is there's a lot of times, like, the one criticism I had of Brat the Charlie XCX album was that when she slowed down, I felt like that's not really a strength, in those albums. I think her like hyper pop side, and that's, personal opinion, that's just where I think she shines the best. What I liked about this album is she does both of those things like very, very well. I did enjoy like the lyrical content. Like this is almost I listen to a lot of Zach Bryan these days, and he's very much like a lyricist, and how he puts things together. It's basically writing a poem and then putting music to it. Um, when she slowed down, I felt like the lyrical content where you normally like that has to be strong when you slow down like that and make that the absolute focus of everything. Um, I felt like that was a strength of this album. It's really hard to find a weak spot. I don't know. I don't know if you found one. It sounds like you're a fan of hers already. But to me, this is one of those ones that kind of stands up as one of the kind of great pop albums of this like generation of artists.
It's a standout pop album for sure. And I think the comparison to Olivia Rodrigo, especially Guts, is apt, which is, this story we talked about at the beginning. That's fucking
Mhm.
weird. Considering that's the album that kind of like Chappell Roan got jilted for. But the similarities there are like, I think, very apt because Olivia Rodrigo on Guts really steered hard into the pop punk this time.
Mhm.
Like there were great flashes of it off of Sour, like Brutal was great.
Mhm.
Um, just like very like hard pop punk. And then in Guts, she cranked it up. Like half of it was like really heavily steered towards that aesthetic. And on this one, on this Chappell Roan album, she has these tender moments like you were talking about where like Coffee in particular, I'm like,
Mhm.
oof, this is very sad. um and it's poignant and it's well written and it's like a great song on its own, and then you juxtapose it with something like Femininomenon,
Yeah.
Femininomenon, or Red Wine Supernova, which has one of my all-time favorite lines in it. You like magic? I got a wand and a rabbit. Um, Amazing, hysterical. I had a sensible chuckle over it out loud.
Yes.
I just think like this is a super campy pop album
Yes.
in a way that no one else is doing. Like I'm not picking on Billie Eilish, but Billie Eilish will like kind of pay lip service to it with something like Lunch or The Diner.
Mhm.
Although Billie's got game. I watched her with a female interviewer, sparks.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. But it's not as like overtly presented in something like Billie Eilish, as it is on this album, where it's just like very burlesque, very over the top, very in your face, campy, campy, campy. And this thing is gay as hell. And I mean that with all the love of my heart is the sincerest compliment. This is a gay, gay, gay album.
Mhm.
And it's simultaneously something that everyone can enjoy. There's something in there that you can pick out. It's definitely made for her crowd, and rightfully it's being uplifted as like
Mhm.
this kind of like big step forward for pop and for representation in the culture. And I just think it's great. I think it successfully does that. I think it's like a very successful, like mainstream popular album with
Mhm.
such overt gay themes, among other things. And then it's just like fucking phenomenal music on top of it.
Yeah. That's so one, like the production value. I put this on every bit the same level as like Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa. And that's an album we reference a lot because I mean, it's one of the ones that we don't do like a number scoring system here, but of all the albums we've reviewed on the show, that's looked at for me as one of the kind of big surprise groundbreaking ones with how just different it was than the rest of what you were hearing in pop music at that time, and just how much of a familiar feeling it gave you as well. So as somebody that went all through like middle school and high school and even to this day listens to a lot of pop punk music, hearing those like veins throughout is that's one of those things that immediately gives you the connection, right? So that was my kind of entry point to liking these songs, is because I was like, well, I like the music, the musicality of it. And then as you listen to it, each of these songs more and more, you pick up on lines like the one you mentioned. I mean, that's just like that's every bit as clever as like anything Eminem ever wrote. You know what I mean? That's every bit as clever as anything Bob Dylan ever wrote. Clearly not the same subjects that each would write about, but it's that kind of wordplay. It's like that's when Casey Musgraves is at her best. It's that kind of like funny tongue-in-cheek kind of wordplay. When you look and listen to the song like Same Trailer Different Park, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, where it paints a picture in how they describe it without having to describe it directly. And it's really, what I think it shows is just a level of songwriting above just your basic storytelling style songwriting. It's bringing in, telling you what happened along with how they felt about it. And I think that's something, when you can connect those two things and have them mesh perfectly, you end up getting songs like when she slowed things down. Oops, I clicked on the wrong. Like Picture You, Kaleidoscope.
Mm.
They've got like Coffee, like you're mentioning. I think it's a really um overall, like, picking those songs and being able to execute that kind of songwriting as well as she does, it provides such a great backbone to the rest of the album, because then you get to songs like what's the get to pull up there because it's a longer Super Graphic Ultra Modern Girl.
I
I
was
mean,
just thinking about that.
the first time you hear that song, you're like, what the hell is this? And then you're not even a third of the way into it and you're like, oh, this is a jam, is what this is. So it's having both arrows in the quiver, and being able to fire them at the bullseye simultaneously. That's such a talent. Like, I'm really looking forward to what kind of styles. She probably will stick with the same kind of style around the pop music umbrella, but there's a lot of space in there, and she explored a lot of spaces in this album, so clearly capable of doing so. I think there's a lot of reasons to praise it. One, the representation that it provides, and I think that's something there's a lot of out there right now, but it's always, we're still playing catch up on that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Socially, we're still playing catch up on a lot of that stuff. Should have been things that shouldn't be necessary. We shouldn't have to talk about it as a big deal, because these are things that should have been done a long time ago. But since they haven't been, it kind of makes it an even bigger deal now that they are. I think
Especially the
going,
way it's connecting to like
yes,
the mainstream. People are
yes.
the people are going batty for Chappell Roan.
And do you know why that might be, Alex?
Why,
It's
Jeff?
our favorite little word called authenticity.
Oh shit.
You believe every damn bit of this, because it just doesn't seem like, maybe obviously there's going to be embellishments made in pop music. There's going to be things said that they don't really mean in pop music. It's just a way to express themselves, right? But when you talk about the emotions, and the stories might not be real, the emotions are always real. And being able to convey that in such a way, whether it's a like kind of hyper pop punk like dance song, or something slowed down like Coffee or Kaleidoscope or one of those, to be able to have both of those land the way they should, and as well as the other, is a really, really strong sign that this is an artist kind of in it for the long haul, that this is something to be expected, because this kind of quality, it's hard to believe it's a flash in the pan.
Yeah, and the fact that you take something like Kaleidoscope or Coffee seriously, you don't doubt it for a second, even though, like, there's songs like Casual where it's the line, knee deep in the passenger seat, you're eating me out, or you're going down on me,
In the chorus.
in the chorus.
In the chorus.
And it's said so matter of factly, and to take nothing away from what I think is like a very genuine story, right? It's like, this is allegedly casual, but there again, I met your mom after 2 weeks. Um, but it's just like, it's fucking laugh out loud funny, but it's not like Weird Al funny where you're like, how amusing, or you're making
Yeah.
fun of how goofy it is. It's just like very audacious. It's very much in line with drag and the drag persona that she's doing. She has a very interesting take on drag,
Hmm.
where she was like, if anyone says I can't, like, Chappell Roan is her drag persona. Technically,
Yeah.
she has said that. She's like, if you're going to tell me that as a woman that I can't do drag, that's just, as far as I'm concerned, another man telling me what I can and can't do. I was
Hmm.
like, damn, that's like really hard to argue with. Um, Point lesbians. Um, but she's so, you can tell she's really smart. She's really witty. Apparently, she's very funny. Girlfriend of the pod listened to Chappell Roan's podcast and said she's funny as fuck. So you get an act, you get a presence out of this, along with music. To touch on like the production and the mixing and mastering on this
Mhm.
thing, clean as all fuck, clean as a whistle, everything right where it needed to be. Um, the beats are incredible, and she very rightly prides herself on the beats in her music. Can you give me a fucking beat? Um, Phenomenon. So like it's great production, it's great music, it's been like mastered expert, like it's clean, man. It is clean
Mhm.
as all fuck. And we haven't even gotten into the like music. We've touched on
Mhm.
the lyrics and everything, but then holy shit, there's this whole other facet.
Yeah, that and the call and response type stuff too, like in Phenomenon um and super ultra modern, super graphic ultra modern girl and Hot to Go. Like the call and response and like just you listen to this album by yourself, it doesn't feel like you're by yourself. Like it feels like you got a bunch of pals with you. And to have like that's such a pop punk thing to have that call and response thing. So that's another reason you get so comfortable. There's so many genres touched on in this album. Like you could almost say a couple of those songs were country. Like so there's an access point for just about everybody on this album. Like there's something that you're going to like. You just have to find it, listen to the whole thing, and you'll find it. Um, and then once you realize that there are such common veins of instrumentation and music and everything that goes throughout this album, like some songs will have just you're kind of stripped back, just acoustic guitar and maybe piano and that kind of thing, and just it's meant to have to be simple. And then some songs have so much going on that anywhere you look there's something new that you're noticing. Maybe you didn't notice that it's like a three-part harmony she did with herself on some of these. Maybe you didn't notice that it's a total like gang vocal backup instead of a regular chorus like you're used to hearing. I think it's I don't know if did she do the whole production and everything on her own? Was this kind of like taken into my own hands and get this thing done? Because if she not only like wrote these songs and performed them at this level, but also was responsible for like just the all around creation of all this, I mean that's impressive.
I mean, obviously she wrote all the songs. There's a producer on all of them. It's it's spelled Nigro. So I'm gonna say Nigro just to be safe. Um, mm, but this Nigro fella is a producer. I think there's an extra producer or two on a couple of the songs. Femininomenon, because
Mhm.
I keep wanting to call it Femininomenon, which to me just like rolls off the tongue
Isn't
better,
that what
but
it's feminine? Oh yeah, there's an extra in
Femininomenon,
there.
she gets that extra syllable in there, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because to me, I'm like, Femininomenon, that's cool.
Yes.
And then it's Femininomenon, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you fuck
Yeah.
me."
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
No.
One that's the criticism. That's the one.
Oh, I was right, by the way, in my pronunciation of Nigro. Yeah, I was right.
Okay.
I'm really smart. Um, I'm smart and woke and Q. Um, yeah, no, it was the music on this is again, it's squeaky clean. It's like taking
Mhm.
I know you don't necessarily take the plastic off a sports car, but what if you just got it like a brand new fresh coat of paint,
Mhm.
sparkling red, just candy apple red, blinding in the sun, and you just peel that shrink wrap off, and oh,
Yeah.
how satisfying it is. It's like clean bakery fresh sounds. And it's just like big, big pop stuff. It reminds
Mhm.
me of the biggest stuff Lady Gaga has ever done.
Yes.
Um, and there's that same kind of glamour and bombast to it. And these songs are just like they're danceable. The like big up ones, obviously, like the
Mhm.
ballads are like nice and slow and introspective, but like the big songs are fucking big.
Mhm.
I'm strutting down the street. I am neither lesbian nor female, but I strut down that street and I'm like, absolutely, girl. 100%. I know exactly what this feels like. Lead with the hips. It's just like, I don't know. It's very infectious music. And like you said, there's a lot of entry points for people, and it didn't take much for me. It's just like a
No,
circus. So
it
fun.
was. I mean, it was right off the bat, like the very first song, "Feminine Phenomenon."
Phenomenon.
Yeah, like the very first one, I was like, okay, I'm in. And it didn't even like because sometimes it'll take me, a few songs in, or maybe if you don't start off strong with stuff that I like, it's tough for me to get into the rest of the album. Like, not an issue at all with this one.
Hmm.
This is one of those ones where it's going to probably end up few of these songs in my like top songs of the year list, because I just know how much I've already listened to them, which means they're probably already in, and how much more I'm going to listen to them. A couple of like that. It's kind of a longer album, it turns out. What was it, 45, 46 minutes?
Almost 50.
Almost 50. Yeah. So it was definitely, when albums get that long, and not that that's like crazy long compared to some of the ones we do, but when albums get like towards that, sometimes you've got a lot more room for things that don't work in an album of that length. So it's really nice when you go through an entire album and you get to the end of an album of this length and you feel like you should have more to go. That's something. There's so many times where I'm listening to an album and I turned out not to like it, but you have to listen, you have to give it the fair chance, right? Maybe there's something you missed, or you're in the wrong mood or something. Doesn't matter with this one. Whatever mood you're in, there's probably a song on this album that will go with that. That's the other beauty of it, is it seems like sometimes it can be very jarring to have those different genres on the same album, like, because it can feel kind of forced. You can be good at both of them, but if you don't really like keep at least your songwriting styles and stuff like that somewhat similar, if there's no like common threads, it's not going to work. It's going to feel like a compilation album rather than just like an album like it should. um Super Graphic Ultra Modern Girl, Red Wine Supernova, you mentioned before, fantastic. Pink Pony Club, fantastic. I can see why like she blew up in the first place. California, also very good. There were so many. I think if you want to find like one of the funniest artists out there today, just in their music, like this is one of them. And you're like you're saying, it's not the Weird Al type of funny, but you have to be so clever to make lines like that work and to come up with them in the first place.
Oh yeah, that whole section is just, it's so funny where it's like, "You like magic? I got a wand and a rabbit." And it's, I'm paraphrasing of course, but it's like, "I got a California king, come on over." Well, actually it's a twin bed, but that's okay. It's my roommates, but they're cool. They're not going to bother us. Now let's make the spring squeak on this thing. It's very funny and ballsy, and a 50-minute pop album, like you said, could have been an incoherent mess in lesser hands. It could have been sloppy. It could have been too all over the place. It could have been too much of the same. This is populated with a lot of songs. Nothing overstays its welcome. So you're constantly like every 2 to 3 minutes in true pop fashion, bam, we're out. Bam, we're out. I don't think there's a song longer than 3.5 minutes on this whole thing.
Hmm.
So you just get a lot of them. And they all manage to be very different, but very cohesive. Again, it's that like big peak Lady Gaga, like electronic dance, but it's not like harsh, grinding, dubsteppy with those shitty beats that I can't stand.
Hmm.
There's a lot of thought put into the production on these. There's a lot of elements in there. You mentioned like harmonizing with yourself. I'm a big sucker for that trope. Elvis Costello does it.
Hmm.
And he has such a distinct voice that like you can't help but notice when he's doing it. It's like very
Yes, sir,
obvious.
you sure can't. Yeah.
He's hard to deny, Jeff, you know it. But yeah, no. Anyway, to close out this thought and my thoughts on the album. Um Pink Pony Club guy, since its inception, 2022, I got the playlist to prove it. Fuck you. Don't challenge me on this. I'll publish it. I'll publish it in a rage. Um But again, it did not take much convincing. I got through Red Wine Supernova, and I was like, that's when I texted you, and I was like, "Hey, we should really think about doing this album."
Hmm.
So I'm glad we loop back around to it. I'm glad she's blowing up. She absolutely deserves it. I give this one a hearty and enthusiastic buy it. I will be
Yes.
buying it.
Yeah, absolutely buy it. I will next time I get down to the old record store. I think this is one that we're going to pick up. Overall, yeah, fantastic. Check it out if you haven't. If you're already a Chappell Roan fan, we're glad to be here. If you haven't listened at all, You definitely should, because I think it'd be hard to find anything on here that you have anything bad to say about. Um, are there any other places that people can find the rest of our episodes, Alex?
Well, I wouldn't say there are places. I would say there's a place. I don't even own a gun, let alone multiple guns to necessitate a gun rack. Name that movie, Wayne's World. You know who are big Wayne's World fans? Me and Jeff. You know where maybe we'll even someday do a Wayne's World episode? Fuck it, let's get wild. It's tangentially related to music.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Mm-hmm. He plays
Why not?
guitar.
Hey man, no stairway. Read the sign.
Denied.
Come on. No stairway. Denied. Wait till you see when we get into that episode. When we get into something like Eddie and the Cruisers or Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. We're going to go off the wall. Someday you're going to show up and you're going to go, here's some content I didn't expect. It's going to hit you full on in the face, like a real Jumbo Jack man can only do. And where's that going to happen? Well, I'll tell you. YouTube.com/C/out on that line. Folks, every single week I make a pitch and I follow it up with folks and I try to drive the point home, but somehow you wacky bitches don't get it. Okay. If you're not already subscribed, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? Subscribe, join the family, hammer the like, smash that like button on this and all our other videos. Make sure your notifications are on so you figure out when this shit comes out. Okay. It's what do I have to do? Show up to your house with an engraved invitation? I don't think so. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to Australia to do that. Absolutely not. You're out of your mind. So why don't you make it easy on all of us? Like, subscribe, comment, notifications on, all that good stuff. YouTube.com/C/out on that line. And if you guys are good, maybe we'll even bring Tanner back and beat the shit out of him about fish.
Yeah.
A height fish. YouTube.com/C/out on that line.
Oh, that was beautiful. And yes, you can expect to see Tanner again. Really enjoyed having him on. So we will definitely get him back on here. And folks, till next time.